You know, those people, Beko was a great man, no doubt. He made his own contributions. But I disagree. Say that there have not been people in the image of Beko Kuti. Many of the young people who participated and continue to support the Revolution Now campaign are people in the mold, in the image of Beko Kuti. They were prepared to live their lives. In Abuja, they challenged the security agents, even with their cock guns. They were not afraid to die. That is Beko for you. So, as far as I'm concerned, from our own experience, we have reproduced such young people, daring, courageous, that we say Beko lives.
As a follow-up to that, sir, at the time Beko was around, many activists rallied around him. But these days, it looked like along political lines, activists have actually been divided. What is the possibility of having a situation where we can come back to having a formidable point of rallying people around a particular struggle, like it was in the days of Beko?
Yes, yes. It is a big challenge. Even in the days of Beko, the most important step we needed to take was not supported by a good number of activists, which was to present to the Nigerian people an alternative political party or parties whose programs are predicated upon Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Many people disagreed along taking the political option. And I think that problem still remains today. Today, we still have coalitions of organizations. The problem is that we are not yet united in terms of providing the Nigerian people with the political option. So there are 6 coalitions as we had them in the days of Beko Kuti. The problem that we partially have is that those who fought against military dictatorship and rally around Beko now have sought accommodation with the ruling parties. And we have lost them. They have gotten to their own bus stop. But others have continued, weak as they may be.
Okay, so let us come back to the deregistration of political parties that are supposed to act as the alternative to the ruling parties that has been criticized for several years now, since 1999, that Nigeria returned to civil rule. Alternative political parties are being deregistered. Should Nigerians let it slide, or what's your recommendation?
No, Nigerians should resist the deregistration of political parties because it is evil. Evil prevails. Evil triumphs where good people are indifferent. So I challenge Nigerians, members of the registered political parties, and even people who are not members, to see this as an evil agenda of the ruling class in Nigeria. They are afraid, and they still live under the fear of revolutionary campaign instituted by AAC and the core. They are afraid. And that is why they want to deregister political parties. So they don't have a platform to gather, to organize, and take action as it was done under Revolution Now campaign. If the INEC will truly implement the Constitution of Nigeria, PDP and APC ought to have been the first group, the first set of political parties that will be deregistered, because the 2 of them lack a constitution with programs and manifesto predicated upon Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Chapter 2 of the Constitution provides for free education from cradle to grave, employment or unemployment allowance, free medical care, and so on. These 2 political parties lack a manifesto, a constitution, in conformity with Chapter 2. INEC ought to deregister them. And I call for the deregistration of APC and PDP. If INEC will convince us that it is not an instrument of oppression in the hands of the APC.
Do you have confidence in this INEC, sir? You have confidence in the INEC?
I have no confidence in the INEC. That is why I say that INEC ought to have deregistered APC and PDP. INEC is a tool in the hands of the ruling class, consisting of the APC and the PDP in Nigeria, and particularly the APC. I was beating back tears when I watched Festus, who was one of us, campaigning for democratization of Nigerian political space, justifying deregistration of political parties. When we have 13 or 14 states that are yet to conduct election into local government councils. Internationally, political parties are not all interested in actually contesting election. Some political parties may be interested in just campaigning on certain issues. Certain political parties may be interested in campaigning against corruption. Others may be interested in the environment. Others may be interested in improved condition of health care, education, and all the rest. In the UK, for example, it requires only 3 persons to get a political party registered administratively to participate in election. 3 persons. You submit 3 names of 3 national officers, and you state your rate of subscription and submit your annual account. And if you want to contest election, that is if you are required to deposit £500 and submit list of only 10 supporters. So from which is the example that we are copying internationally? In the US, there are several political parties that are not on the ballot paper, and they are not disqualified.
If you will recommend for Nigeria, sir, how many political parties will you?
There ought not to be a limit to the number of political parties. And I'm saying that internationally, parties are just registered administratively, just for administrative purpose. There ought not to be a limit.
But you have also canvassed.
Democracy is about expanding the scope of the participation of ordinary people in politics. When you are placing limits to the number of political parties, you are excluding people. Democracy is about inclusion, not exclusion.
But you have also canvassed for the deregistration of APC and PDP on some grounds.
On the ground of the Constitution, because they link the deregistration of 74 political parties to constitutional provision. And I argue that if INEC were to be objective, then APC and PDP ought to have been deregistered by constitutional provisions, because these 2 political parties lack a constitution predicated upon chapter 2 of the Constitution. In terms of their manifesto, they do not have a manifesto providing for free education from cradle to grave as provided under section 18 sub 3 of the Constitution. They do not have a manifesto that provides that governmental actions shall be humane as provided under section 17 of the Constitution. They do not have provisions for adequate and suitable shelter, adequate and suitable food, national minimum living wage, the care of the aged, and so on, as we have under section 16 of the Constitution. So going by the constitutional provisions and the reason given by INEC for deregistering 75 political parties, APC and PDP ought to be the first set of political parties that must be deregistered. Not only that, there are limits to campaign expenses. APC and PDP have been exceeding the limits of campaign expenses. They ought to have been deregistered on this ground. APC and PDP have not submitted their annual accounts. They ought to have been deregistered for this reason. But INEC, being a tool in the hands of the ruling class, in the hands of the APC, must be blind and deaf to the violations of the Constitution by the APC and the PDP.
Deregistered. About 74 political parties have been deregistered. What is your view about this?
It is to us, you see, they are busy narrow space. It is undemocratic to deregister political parties. Look, it has become how will you say if I want to register a political party I must have offices in 18 states of the federation and an office in Abuja? How many retired local government primary school teachers, secondary school teachers can afford that? You understand me now? Meanwhile, these are the people who have who understand even what is going on around their locality, okay, and the peculiarity of the needs of their locality, okay. So you will now ask this question. In Canada, you have the Quebec Party. The Quebec Party have been contesting for over 100 years, okay, but they never contested outside Quebec. Okay, so what stops me and you from coming together and contesting for Ojodu local government chairmanship and let our party remain there? Whoever wants to relate with us must be ready to partner with us in coalition, just like you had in the First Republic. The action group partnered with some other political party. That was where and when the issue of carpet crossing came, because the action group, as it were then, might not have had the majority to form a government. NCNC does not have the majority to form the government. But after relating with those smaller parties, some with 1 seat, some with 2 seats, they were able to form a government. That is democracy. If we are deciding that, look, our own political party wants just 3 words from the local government to act as their councillors, what stops us from doing that? Talk less of you now telling us that because some party does not have 200,000 voters and blah, blah, blah. The process is being too monetized and they're stifling this.
What is the possible resistance to this kind of decision? As you said, it is already undemocratic.
Well, some are thinking of going to court to challenge. So let's see how far it goes. Remember, late Ganifa of blessed memory to challenge when this thing first happened. He challenged it with his party NCP back then before they won at the Supreme Court level. So let's see what will happen.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.